My best friend convinced my fiancé I was cheating, ruined our engagement, then swooped in to comfort him. They got married 6 months later. Now he's calling me at 3 a.m. She's been lying about everything, so I decided to show him just how deep her betrayal really goes. The call came at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number, middle of the night. But something made me pick up. Zoe? The voice was shaky, desperate. It's me. It's Ethan. My blood went cold. Ethan, my ex-fiancé. The man who'd accused me of cheating based on evidence my best friend Meredith had provided. The man who'd thrown my engagement ring at my feet and told me I disgusted him. The man who'd married Meredith 6 months after our relationship imploded. What do you want? My voice came out steadier than I felt. I need to see you, please. Meredith, his voice cracked. She's been lying about everything. The photos, the messages, all of it. None of it was real. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. What are you talking about? She fabricated everything. The photos of you with that guy? Photoshopped. The text messages from your phone? She created them on some app. Even the hotel receipts. She made them all up. The room spun around me. 3 years. 3 years I'd lived with the humiliation, the whispers, the destroyed reputation. 3 years of people looking at me like I was the woman who'd cheated on her devoted fiancé right before their wedding. How do you know this? I whispered. I found her computer tonight. She kept everything. Files labeled Operation Zoe with tutorials on photo editing, fake text generators, everything she used to destroy you. There are dozens of practice runs, Zoe. She planned this for months. My hands were shaking. Why would she? Because she wanted me. She's been obsessed with me since college. She told me tonight after I confronted her. Said she'd rather have me hate her than watch me marry you. I couldn't breathe. My best friend. The woman who'd held me while I cried. Who'd sworn she believed I was innocent even when Ethan didn't. The woman who'd stood by my side through everything, only to reveal she was the architect of my destruction. Zoe, I know I can never make this right, but I need you to know the truth, and I need your help. She's been lying about other things too. Dangerous things. I think she might have. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my mind racing. After 3 years of silence, Ethan calls me in the middle of the night to tell me my best friend had systematically destroyed my life, and now the line was dead. I tried calling back. Straight to voicemail. Sleep was impossible. I paced my apartment until sunrise, replaying every moment from 3 years ago. How Meredith had been the one to show Ethan the evidence. How she'd cried with me afterward, swearing she couldn't believe I'd done such a thing. How she'd been there for Ethan too, helping him through his heartbreak. How perfectly she'd positioned herself to catch him when he fell. The memories felt different now, tainted by this new knowledge. I remembered how Meredith had insisted on planning my bachelorette party, choosing a weekend when Ethan would be out of town for his cousin's wedding. How she'd encouraged me to invite my coworker Brian, the same man who appeared in the fabricated photos. How she'd taken dozens of pictures that night, claiming she wanted to capture every moment of my last weekend as a single woman. She'd been documenting my interactions with Brian, gathering raw material for her deception. I remembered how she'd borrowed my phone that weekend, claiming hers had died. How she'd offered to help me clean up after the party, staying late into the night. She'd had hours alone with my phone, plenty of time to install spyware or gather information for creating fake messages. Every kindness had been a weapon. Every gesture of friendship had been preparation for betrayal. At 7 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Coffee shop on 5th Street. 1 hour. Come alone. E. I debated ignoring it. What good could come from reopening this wound? But I needed answers. I needed to understand how the person I'd trusted most had orchestrated my downfall with such precision. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. Ethan sat in the back corner, hunched over a laptop. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled like he'd slept in them. His wedding ring was gone, leaving a pale band of skin on his finger. When he saw me, his face crumpled with guilt. Zoe, thank you for coming. I sat across from him, keeping my distance. Your phone cut out. She came home. I had to hide everything. He glanced around nervously. She thinks I'm at the gym. Show me. He turned the laptop toward me. The screen displayed folders labeled with my name, dates, and chilling titles. Photo evidence, text message creation, timeline planning, backup scenarios. My stomach lurched as he opened the first folder. There were dozens of photos of me, taken without my knowledge over months. Me leaving work, at the grocery store, having lunch with colleagues, pictures taken from across the street, from inside restaurants, even from the parking lot of my apartment complex. And then there were the manipulated versions. My face seamlessly placed onto bodies in compromising positions with men I'd never met. She used photos from your social media, surveillance pictures she took, everything. Ethan's voice was hollow. Look at this. He opened a video file dated 2 months before our wedding. It was a tutorial on creating fake text message screenshots. Meredith's voice narrated as she demonstrated how to fabricate conversations, complete with timestamps and contact photos. The goal, her recorded voice explained cheerfully, is creating believable evidence that will survive initial scrutiny. Most people don't examine digital evidence closely when it confirms their fears. The casual tone made my skin crawl. She was discussing the destruction of my life like it was a craft project. How long did you know? I asked. I found this 3 days ago. I was looking for her tax documents when I accidentally opened this folder. He rubbed his face. Zoe, I'm so sorry. I believed her completely. She was so convincing, so heartbroken for me. She was my maid of honor, I whispered. I trusted her with everything. There's more. He clicked another folder labeled Contingency Plans. Inside were detailed documents outlining backup strategies if the initial evidence wasn't convincing enough. Plans to plant physical evidence in my apartment, men's clothing, receipts, even hotel key cards. Scripts for fake witnesses who would claim they'd seen me with other men. Contact information for actors who could be hired to play the role of my alleged affair partners. And most disturbing, a timeline showing how she'd gradually isolated me from our mutual friends over the year before our wedding, ensuring I'd have fewer people to vouch for my character when the accusations came. She thought of everything, I said, scrolling through the meticulous planning. This is psychotic. It gets worse. Ethan's hands shook as he opened another folder labeled David Investigation. Remember my cousin David? The one who died in that car accident 2 months after our wedding was supposed to happen? I nodded. David had been Ethan's best man. His death had devastated Ethan, coming so soon after our broken engagement. Look at this. The folder contained research on David's driving routes, his daily schedule, even detailed information about his car's brake system. There were screenshots of articles about brake line tampering, how to make accidents look random, and the exact tools needed to sabotage a vehicle. Most chilling were the surveillance photos of David's car in various parking lots, taken from multiple angles. My blood turned to ice. You think David started asking questions about the evidence against you. He never believed you'd cheat. He was planning to hire a private investigator to look into it. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. 2 days later, his brakes failed on a mountain curve. I stood up abruptly, knocking over my chair. Several other customers turned to stare. We need to go to the police. With what? Suspicious files on her computer? They'll say it's just research, creative writing, anything. We need more. He was right. Meredith was a corporate lawyer. She'd know exactly how to explain away circumstantial evidence. She'd probably claim she was writing a thriller novel or researching for a legal case. What do you want from me? I asked. Help me get her to confess. She thinks she's won everything. If she believes you're no threat, she might admit what she's done. The plan was simple and dangerous. I would reach out to Meredith, pretending I'd heard about her marriage and wanted to make peace. We'd meet somewhere public, and Ethan would record the conversation from nearby. I spent the rest of the morning crafting the perfect message. It had to sound genuine, vulnerable enough to appeal to her ego, but not so pathetic that she'd be suspicious. That afternoon, I sent Meredith a carefully worded text. I know it's been a long time, but I heard about your marriage to Ethan. I've done a lot of soul-searching and realized I owe you an apology. I know you tried to warn me about my behavior, and I should have listened. Could we meet for coffee? I'd like to make things right between us. Her response came within minutes. Oh, honey, of course. I've been hoping we could reconcile. I never wanted our friendship to end like that. Tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Our old spot at Riverside Cafe? Our old spot. The cafe where we'd spent countless hours during college, sharing dreams and secrets. Where she'd comforted me through breakups and celebrated my engagement to Ethan. Where she'd probably been planning my destruction, even as she smiled and offered support. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed. How Meredith had always been competitive with me, though I'd dismissed it as harmless. How she'd dated a string of men who resembled Ethan, never seeming to find lasting happiness. How she'd always found subtle ways to undermine my confidence. Are you sure that dress is flattering? Ethan seemed a little distant at dinner last night. I'd thought she was being a caring friend, looking out for my best interests. Now I realized she'd been slowly poisoning my self-esteem, making me doubt myself and my relationship. The next day, I arrived at Riverside Cafe early and chose a table with clear sightlines. Ethan was positioned across the room, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, his phone discreetly recording everything. We'd tested the audio quality that morning. It was clear enough to capture our conversation from that distance. Meredith breezed in exactly on time, radiant in a way I'd never seen before. She wore a designer dress I didn't recognize and carried a handbag that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Marriage suited her. Or maybe it was the satisfaction of having destroyed her best friend and stolen her life. Zoe! She embraced me like nothing had happened, her perfume overwhelming and expensive. You look wonderful. Different, but wonderful. I'd lost 15 pounds over the past 3 years, stress and heartbreak carving away at my appetite. My hair was shorter now, my style more conservative. I'd learned to armor myself against the world's judgment. Thank you for meeting me, I said, settling across from her. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what happened. I'm so glad you reached out. I've missed you terribly. Her eyes sparkled with what looked like genuine affection. I know things ended badly between you and Ethan, but I've always hoped we could stay friends. The ease with which she lied was breathtaking. She'd missed me the way a hunter misses prey that got away. I want that too. Actually, I need to apologize. I took a deep breath, hating every word I was about to say. I think I was in denial about what I'd done. The cheating, I mean. I was so ashamed that I convinced myself it hadn't happened. Meredith's eyes widened with surprise, and something else. Triumph. This was even better than she'd hoped. Oh, sweetheart. She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. It takes such courage to admit that. I'm so proud of you for taking responsibility. Her touch made my skin crawl, but I forced myself not to flinch. I just don't understand how it all came out. The photos, the messages, I barely remember any of it happening. Well, Meredith leaned forward conspiratorially, lowering her voice like we were sharing secrets again. You were drinking a lot around that time, remember? You probably blocked out most of it as a coping mechanism. I hadn't been drinking heavily. That was another lie. Another piece of the narrative she'd constructed to explain away inconsistencies in my behavior. The photos of me with that man, Ryan, wasn't it? I still can't remember meeting him. Oh, you don't remember Ryan. Meredith's smile was predatory now, delighting in the details of her deception. You two were quite the item for a while. Very passionate. You said he made you feel alive in ways Ethan never could. I said that? Those were your exact words. You were crying when you told me, so conflicted about the affair. More fabrication. I'd never cried to her about any affair because there had been no affair to cry about. I wish I could remember. What did he look like again? Tall? Dark hair? That charming smile that made you weak in the knees? You introduced us at that gallery opening downtown. I'd never been to a gallery opening with Meredith. And the man in the photos was blonde with a stocky build. She was mixing up her own lies. You have such a good memory for details, I said. I'm envious. I feel like I lost months of my life. Trauma can do that, she said sympathetically, playing the role of caring friend. Your mind probably protected you by forgetting the guilt and shame. The lies flowed so easily from her lips. She wasn't just evil, she was gifted at it, weaving fiction and reality together until even she might believe her own stories. Can I ask you something personal? I said. Of course. We're friends. Are you happy? With Ethan, I mean. I know you two got together pretty quickly after everything fell apart. For the first time, her expression flickered. A micro-expression of uncertainty before the mask snapped back into place. We comforted each other. We were both devastated by what you'd done to him, to our entire friend group. It must have been hard watching him suffer. It was heartbreaking. Her voice took on a dreamy quality, like she was savoring the memory. But I'd been in love with him for years. Since college, really. I never thought I'd have a chance. My pulse quickened. This was new information, something she'd never admitted before. You never mentioned that before. Well, he was with you. I could never say anything. She leaned back, relaxing as she talked about her triumph. I used to fantasize about what our life would be like together, where we'd live, what our wedding would look like, how many children we'd have, and now you have it, and now I have it. Her smile was radiant and terrifying. Everything I ever wanted. Ethan is an amazing husband, so attentive, so grateful for everything I do. He tells me every day how lucky he is that I stood by him through his darkest period. The irony was sickening. Ethan was grateful to the woman who had created his darkest period, even if it meant destroying our friendship. Zoe, she reached for my hand again, her grip surprisingly strong. I tried to warn you. I told you that cheating would ruin everything. You chose not to listen to someone who only wanted to protect you. The rewriting of history was breathtaking. She'd created an entire alternate reality where she was the victim, the loyal friend trying to save me from myself. You're right, I said. I should have listened. I should have realized that someone who truly loved me would never betray me. Something in my tone must have alerted her because her expression sharpened. What do you mean? Nothing. Just that you were such a good friend. Always looking out for me. Always there when I needed support. I was, she said firmly. Everything I did was to protect the people I cared about. Like David? The name hit her like a physical blow. Her face went white and her hand jerked away from mine as if I'd burned her. What about David? Ethan's cousin, the one who died in that car accident. He was asking a lot of questions about my supposed cheating, wasn't he? I don't know what you're talking about. But her voice was strained now, the confident mask slipping. He didn't believe I'd done it. He was going to investigate, hire a private detective to look into the evidence. Meredith stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I think this conversation is over. Is it? Because I think we're just getting to the interesting part. You sound paranoid, Zoe. Maybe you should see someone about that. Get back on medication. Another lie. I'd never been on psychiatric medication. Or maybe I should see someone about break lines. She went perfectly still. In that moment, I saw the real Meredith, cold, calculating, and utterly without remorse. The woman who had murdered an innocent man to protect her fantasy. You have no idea what you're talking about, she said quietly, but her voice carried a threat. Don't I? You're very thorough, Meredith. But sometimes being thorough means keeping records of things you shouldn't. I stood up too, matching her energy. David was going to expose you, so you killed him. That's insane. Is it? You researched his routines, his roots, how to tamper with break lines without leaving evidence. You made it look like an accident. You can't prove any of that. Actually, Ethan's voice came from behind her. I think I can. She spun around to find him standing there, phone in hand, recording light blinking red. Hello, wife. Meredith's face cycled through emotions. Shock, rage, calculation, and finally a cold fury that made my blood freeze. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. You think anyone will believe this? A conversation taken out of context between a mentally unstable woman and her former friend? I was humoring someone who clearly needs professional help. Maybe, Ethan said, but they'll definitely believe this. He held up a flash drive. Every file from your computer, every manipulated photo, every fake message, every contingency plan, including your research on David's murder. It wasn't murder, she snapped, then immediately realized her mistake. The confession hung in the air between us. Several other cafe patrons had noticed the commotion and were watching our table with interest. No? I asked quietly. What was it then? She stared at us both, trapped. The mask finally slipped completely, revealing the predator underneath. It was necessary, she said coldly. David would have ruined everything I'd worked for. just like you would have ruined Ethan eventually. Some people don't deserve the happiness they stumble into. And you do? I fought for it. I planned for it. I earned it. Her voice rose, drawing more attention. You had everything handed to you. Ethan's love, his devotion, a perfect life waiting for you. And you would have thrown it away eventually. You're weak, Zoe. You've always been weak. So you decided to throw it away for me. I decided to give it to someone who would cherish it properly. Someone who understood its value. By murdering an innocent man. David wasn't innocent. He was going to destroy my marriage before it even started. She was fully unhinged now, years of suppressed truth pouring out. I saved Ethan from a life with a cheater, saved our friends from having to watch your inevitable divorce, saved myself from watching the man I love waste his life on someone completely unworthy. You saved yourself, I corrected. This was never about protecting anyone else. I loved him first, she screamed, causing the entire cafe to fall silent. I loved him longer, I loved him better. You had him for 2 years and barely appreciated what you had. I've loved him for 12 years. The cafe had gone completely silent. Other customers were staring, some recording with their phones. The barista had stopped what she was doing to watch the drama unfold. Ethan stepped forward, his face a mixture of disgust and pity. Meredith, love doesn't work that way. You can't just take it from someone else. Can't I? She looked between us, a smile playing at her lips that chilled me to the bone. Because I did. And for 3 years we were happy. You were happy, Ethan. Don't try to rewrite history now that your guilt is inconvenient. I was happy with a lie. All happiness is built on lies. At least mine were carefully constructed. She gestured around the cafe at our audience. Look at all these people, living their little lives, believing their comfortable illusions. I just took control of mine instead of leaving it to chance. I stared at this woman who had been my closest friend for over a decade. Was any of it real? Our friendship? The memories we shared? The times you comforted me? Some of it, she admitted with shocking casualness. But even when we were teenagers, I resented you. Everything came so easily to you. Boys liked you, teachers favored you, opportunities fell into your lap, and you never even tried. You just expected the world to hand you whatever you wanted, so you decided to take it all away. I decided to level the playing field, to see what you were really made of when things got difficult. Her smile was cruel. Turns out not much. Ethan pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Wait, Meredith said, her voice suddenly calm and reasonable again. Let me ask you something, Ethan. These 3 years of marriage, were they really so terrible? Were you truly unhappy every single day? He paused, and I saw the uncertainty in his eyes. 3 years of shared experiences, even built on lies, created real memories, real feelings. We were good together, she continued, stepping closer to him. We fit. We understood each other. We had the same goals, the same values. Yes, our beginning was based on deception, but everything after that was real. Our wedding day, our honeymoon, the house we bought together, those feelings weren't fake. You murdered my cousin. I prevented your cousin from destroying our marriage with lies about a woman who wasn't worthy of you. They weren't lies. Does it matter now? She was close enough to touch him, her voice becoming hypnotic. We can't change what happened, but we can choose what happens next. Walk away with me. Leave this all behind. We can start over somewhere new, somewhere no one knows our history. For a moment, I thought he might actually consider it. 3 years of marriage, even built on lies, created bonds that weren't easily broken. Then he shook his head. No, I can't live with a murderer. Then you'll live with nothing, she said flatly. Because when this comes out, it won't just be me who's destroyed. Your reputation, your business, your family, everyone will know you married the woman who killed your cousin. Everyone will wonder what you knew and when you knew it. I can live with that. Can you? Can you live with knowing that your gullibility cost David his life? That if you'd been smarter, more observant, less easily manipulated, he'd still be alive today? I watched Ethan flinch. Even now, even knowing what she was still manipulating him with surgical precision. That's enough, I said. Ethan, call the police. Stay out of this, Zoe, Meredith snapped. You've done enough damage already. I've done damage? I've spent 3 years having my character assassinated by someone I trusted completely. I've lost friends, job opportunities, relationships, all because you wanted my fiancé and were willing to destroy anyone who stood in your way. And now you have the truth. Isn't that enough? No, it's not enough. David deserves justice. David is dead. Justice won't bring him back, but it might prevent you from killing someone else when they threaten your next perfect life. That hit home. Her face darkened with genuine anger. I'm not a serial killer, Zoe. I'm not going around murdering people for fun. No, you're just eliminating obstacles. What happens when Ethan starts asking the wrong questions about something else? What happens when he wants children and you realize they might threaten your control over him? What happens when he finds old friends who remember things differently than you've told him? That would never, wouldn't it? You killed a man for planning to investigate your lies. What wouldn't you do to protect your fantasy? She stared at me with pure hatred. You self-righteous bitch. You think you're so morally superior, but you would have done the same thing if you'd had the courage. No, Meredith, I wouldn't have, because I'm not a sociopath. You're just weak. Too weak to fight for what you want. Too weak to keep what you have. Too weak to rebuild when life knocks you down. Maybe. But I'm not a murderer. Ethan finally hit the call button. 911? I need to report a murder. As sirens wailed in the distance, Meredith looked between us one last time, her expression calculating even now. You know what the funny thing is? she said as police cars pulled up outside. Even with all this evidence, even with my confession on tape, I'll probably get a plea deal. Diminished capacity, emotional disturbance, temporary insanity, whatever my lawyer can make stick. I'll serve maybe 10 years, get out when I'm still young enough to start over. And Ethan will be waiting for you? I asked sarcastically. Ethan will move on. But you, Zoe? You'll spend the rest of your life wondering who else might be lying to you. You'll never trust anyone completely again. You'll question every friendship, every relationship, every kind gesture, and that's almost better than killing you. As the police led her away in handcuffs, she called over her shoulder, "Say hi to your new therapist for me. You're going to need one." Even in defeat, she was still trying to wound me, still attempting to control the narrative. Ethan and I spent the next 8 hours at the police station, providing statements and evidence. The digital trail was overwhelming. Meredith had documented her crimes with the thoroughness of someone who never expected to be caught. Her arrogance had been her downfall. The police found additional evidence in her home and office. Credit card records showing purchases of the equipment used to tamper with David's car. Phone records placing her near the scene. Even security footage from a gas station showing her following David's route on the day he died. When we finally walked out into the evening air, we stood awkwardly on the sidewalk, unsure how to process what had just happened. "What happens now?" I asked. "I don't know," he admitted. "The marriage will be annulled, obviously. The house, the joint accounts, everything we built together. It's all tainted now. I meant between us." He looked at me with sad, tired eyes. "I don't know that either. I destroyed your life based on lies. I married your best friend while you suffered alone. I questioned your character so thoroughly that I threw away years of love and trust. How do we come back from that?" "Maybe we don't," I said softly. "Maybe some things can't be fixed no matter how much we want them to be. I loved you, Zoe. I loved you completely with everything I had, and I threw it away because I was too stupid to see through her manipulation. You loved who you thought I was. But you never really knew me if you could believe I'd cheat on you so easily." He nodded, accepting the truth of it. "I'm going to make sure you get compensation for what she took from you. The jobs you lost, the opportunities missed, the damage to your reputation. That's not what I want. What do you want?" I thought about it. 3 years ago, I would have said I wanted him back, wanted our life together, wanted the future we'd planned with white picket fences and children's laughter. Now, I just wanted peace. "I want to move forward," I said finally. "I want to stop being defined by what she did to me. And us? There is no us anymore, Ethan. There hasn't been for 3 years. Maybe there never really was. Not if our relationship was fragile enough to be destroyed by photoshopped pictures and fake text messages." He winced, but didn't argue. "I forgive you," I continued. "Not for your sake, but for mine. I'm tired of carrying this anger around. It's been poisoning my life for too long. Thank you. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. What we had is gone." She didn't just destroy our relationship. She revealed cracks that were already there. We parted ways that night, probably for the last time. 6 months later, Meredith was sentenced to 25 years for David's murder and additional charges for fraud, stalking, and conspiracy. She showed no remorse at her sentencing, maintaining that she'd been protecting the people she loved from those who would harm them. I testified via video link, unwilling to be in the same room with her again. Even through the screen, I could feel her hatred radiating toward me. Ethan moved across the country for a fresh start. We don't keep in touch, though I heard through mutual acquaintances that he's seeing a therapist and doing better. I started therapy too, not because of Meredith's parting shot, but because I realized I needed to understand how I'd been so blind to someone's capacity for evil, how the person I'd trusted most had been systematically destroying me while I thanked her for her support. The answer, my therapist explained, was both simple and complex. Meredith was a skilled manipulator who'd spent years studying my weaknesses and blind spots. She'd used my trust and love against me with surgical precision, exploiting my desire to see the best in people. It wasn't my fault that I'd been betrayed, but it was my responsibility to heal from it and learn to protect myself better in the future. Today, I have new friends who earn my trust gradually. I have a job I love, working with other survivors of manipulation and abuse. I have a small apartment that's entirely mine, filled with things I chose because they make me happy. I have a life that Meredith never touched, never poisoned, never tried to take from me. Sometimes I still dream about that final conversation in the cafe. But instead of feeling angry or hurt, I feel something I never expected: pity. Because Meredith got exactly what she wanted: Ethan's love, marriage, the life she'd coveted for so long. For 3 years, she lived her fantasy, waking up next to the man she'd obsessed over since college, but it was all built on lies. Every kiss, every shared moment, every "I love you" was contaminated by the truth of how it began. She destroyed my life to get what she wanted, but in doing so, she poisoned everything she touched. She never got to experience real love, the kind built on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine connection. Instead, she had a relationship founded on murder, manipulation, and deceit. Even when Ethan loved her, he was loving a carefully constructed fiction, and unlike me, she never figured out how to build something real. I received a letter from her in prison last month. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. The letter was classic Meredith. No apology, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just one final attempt at manipulation. She claimed she was pregnant with Ethan's child, conceived before her arrest. She wanted me to convince him to visit her. to be part of their child's life. She painted a picture of a reformed woman, ready to be the mother and wife she'd always dreamed of being. I looked up the prison records. She wasn't pregnant. It was just another lie. Another desperate attempt to control the narrative even from behind bars. I didn't respond to the letter. Instead, I did something that would have been impossible 3 years ago. I threw it away and forgot about it. Because I've learned something valuable in my journey toward healing. The best revenge against someone who tried to destroy your life isn't plotting your own revenge. It's building a life so full and meaningful that they become irrelevant to your happiness. Meredith stole 3 years from me, but she couldn't steal my future. She destroyed one version of my life, but she couldn't prevent me from creating a better one. And that's a victory she can never take away. Last week, I got engaged to a wonderful man named Gabriel, who knows my entire story and loves me anyway. When I told him about Meredith, he listened without judgment and then said something that made me cry. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm grateful it led you to me. We're planning a small wedding, just family and the friends who stood by me during my darkest period, the ones who believed in my character even when the evidence seemed stacked against me. Meredith tried to teach me that I couldn't trust anyone, that friendship was just another weapon people used against each other. But she was wrong. The friends who truly knew me saw through her lies immediately. They're the ones planning my bridal shower now, the ones who will stand beside me as I marry a man who would never believe fabricated evidence over his own knowledge of my character. Sometimes I wonder if Meredith sees the irony in all of this. She thought she was taking away my future, but she actually freed me to find a better one. She thought she was proving I was weak, but she forced me to discover just how strong I really am. She wanted to destroy me, but instead, she destroyed herself. And in the end, that's the truest justice of all. The day before my wedding, I visited David's grave. I brought flowers and told him about my engagement, about the life I'd built from the ashes of Meredith's betrayal. I thanked him for trying to defend me, even though it cost him everything. As I walked away from his headstone, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: complete peace. The chapter of my life that included Meredith was finally truly closed. Tomorrow I'll walk down the aisle toward a future built on truth, trust, and genuine love. Meredith will spend the next 20 years in a cell, surrounded by the ruins of her own choices. She wanted my life so badly that she was willing to kill for it. But the life she stole wasn't worth having. The life I built to replace it is everything she could never understand. Real, honest, and completely mine. And that's the most beautiful revenge of all.